Hey everyone, welcome back to CryptoCache. Thank you so much for joining me here. Hope you're having an amazing day. Happy Tuesday to you and your family. We're looking, of course, here again at Bitcoin, helping understand kind of what's going on, mostly just identifying key supports and resistance levels and helping us, just kind of get perspective on what might happen next. Again, technical analysis is not an exact science, but it definitely increases your odds of success. So again, we're going to look at that and much more. And if you are new to the channel, just know I have a trading academy community and signals that I send out for my trades essentially. So every single trade that I take, I share them with my community. We recently took 108% on Ethereum yesterday, as well as 68% on Bitcoin the day prior. Basically, those trades were taken roughly 2 days ago, and we took profit yesterday morning. Today, I've got my eyes on a handful of other coins, of course, but we'll take a look at that here in a moment. Last but not least, make sure you register for Bitget using my link in the description below so you can be part of my trading team for the King's Cup Global Invitation. Okay, this is essentially a situation where we're registering up until the 20th. We've got 5 more days. We have group stages, and essentially all of December is kind of a trading competition. So a lot of fun with that. We got some healthy competitions, and more important, every month we do have opportunities for a $10,000 prize pool if you use my link in the description below. It automatically be registered for that by just using that. Okay, so keep that in mind. So here's where we're at with Bitcoin. Obviously, we know what happened previously, right? And as I mentioned yesterday, we kind of bought the dip, for lack of better terms, and the price is coming back up. Now, it was overextended to the downside, so it made sense that it was going to bounce. We want to see it to make sure, take a look at today's activity and see if we're not overextended as well to the upside to ensure that, if we were to take a long position, for example, it doesn't just turn right back around on us. There could very well be some strong resistance levels that we need to make sure to be aware of. I think 17,200 is a kind of point of contention. I'll show you in a moment what I mean by that, but that should be a case in point whereas a daily closure above that level would probably be a benefit, and a daily closure below that level could be disadvantageous, right? So here's where we're at on the daily. Let's go ahead and take a look at some standard stuff. Moving averages well above the price action right now. Nothing to worry about for the moment, but they could be eventual resistance levels here soon, at least within the next week or two. When we look at the RSI, we can see we're under 70, well under 70, under 50 also, but above 30. We kind of got that little bounce. So in essence, the price has more room to run. Keep in mind, if the price were to run upwards and kind of get up to about 50 here, you could very well see the price action hitting 17.5. Okay, so again, 17.5, 17.6 is that major key level resistance we need to be aware of that should likely hold us within a range between 15.5 and 17.5. That's essentially the speculation here. I'm thinking we're going to probably be range bound in this area for perhaps a little while. And the main reason why is just because it's normal for that to happen based on everything that occurred here recently. In other words, a massive decrease. It's rare for the price to just do a massive increase to bounce back. When I say we're going to get a bounce, it's usually a small temporary bounce that will get maxed out at a resistance level. Unless there's a short squeeze that pushes us through that level, we can expect to stay under 17.6 for some time. All right, again, we have to wait for it to prove itself otherwise. We can see the momentum to the downside is starting to dissipate. This is a positive sign. We're not converging by any stretch, but it's getting there. Taking a look at the 4 hour, we can kind of see here that, we are testing 50 on the RSI and looking to try to break above. That is right there at the, just say about 17,000 range. So 17,000 is also somewhat of a resistance based on the relative strength index of the last 14 candlesticks on the 4 hour. So those are things also to be relevant that are relevant and to be aware of. We got the 50-day SMA working its way down here as well. Could work as a resistance, coincidentally, right there at 17.5. So again, that 17,000 to 17,500 range should work as a fairly strong resistance range, kind of holding the price action in place. Again, until we break above there, a good sound closure above that on the daily, I think we should expect the price action to pull back here in the near future. Again, just generally speaking, that's what it feels like. Definitely no guarantees, but on the same accord, we've been running for a little while here, and it would make sense for the pullback to occur. Now, speaking of pullback, we're not like super overextended. You want to keep this in mind. We're like a 4 on TD sequential, so it really only tells us the last 16 hours. We've been bullish, okay? We had some correction here in the last 48 hours, but generally speaking, we still have room for growth. So I'm not saying the price is just going to drop like a rock. We could very well see in the next 20 hours the price action try to retest that level of 17.5. That's a possibility. But unless we get a closure above, just say starting point 17.2, then I don't think we're going to have much of an option to continue that further. And what I mean by the 17.2 is just, if you look here at roughly 17,200, you can see that the price has gotten rejected a few times here so far. And that concurrently with 50 on the RSI, we can see also that that is potentially a point of resistance. Okay, so once again, what this does is it just tells us in the last 14 candlesticks, essentially, last few days, the amount of price action is essentially coming up to a resistance level. And then obviously we also see 17,200 as a resistance level too. That's kind of giving us the indication the price is going to either max out there or break through. Again, both things could occur, but the likelihood of a rejection there, at least initially, is higher. Okay. Again, I'm hoping it breaks through, and I hope it continues higher, but it does look like it wants to kind of reject at that level. All right, so let's take a look at the 1 hour and kind of see. We do have a handful of resets, and as as I mentioned yesterday, we took entry right at this level, and we're able to take some healthy profits in a short amount of time. But as we can see, we're making higher lows. This is a very positive sign, and we are making higher highs as well in the more immediate time frame. So Bitcoin's performing fairly well, all things considered. The hourly does look healthy. Let's say if the TD sequential, the Ichimoku cloud tells us anything, and we can see we have kind of all green lights here to go ahead and take a long position. So hindsight, I know, is 2020. Hadn't I been sleeping during this time, would have considered taking entry at this point here, right around the 17,000 range, because the fact that it kept testing that resistance level, the Fibonacci retracement of 16,870, but also the conversion lines above the baseline. We got that momentum, in addition to the fact that the lagging span is free and clear. So hypothetically, right now, we have full confirmation from the cloud that a long position would be viable. Okay. Now, I might recommend waiting for the price to pull back a little bit, because there is a chance of that. But again, the hourly looks pretty decent. So if we look at everything we've seen here so far, the micro, or essentially the hourly, it's not necessarily micro, but it's definitely smaller than the daily. It's really telling us that we're in a pretty good shape right now, and that we are establishing a nice trend. I mean, we can kind of see here as well that this trend is essentially looking pretty good. Okay, so as long as we can continue to maintain this, I would say a closure today above 17,200. Once again, this level here is going to be very important. If we get a closure above 17.2, I think a long position would make sense, at least with tight profit targets. And then, of course, expect perhaps a pullback at 17.6. All right. So again, macro doesn't look fantastic. It still looks fairly unfortunate. Okay. So until we break above some key levels resistances, we can't expect the price to run. What we should expect is a resistance at 17.2 to 17.5. That range, once again, as I mentioned, between 17,000 and 17.5 is going to be an area in which the price will likely reject. So if we do get confirmation here soon with a closure above those levels, that would be a good indication that we should be in better shape. But for right now, the hourly is telling us that we have a decent opportunity to be able to continue a little bit higher before we face any type of correction. So to me, a long up to 17.2 with a secondary profit target at maybe 17.4 would seem appropriate, and then potentially short from there back to the downside. That seems probable at this point. Again, strictly hypothetical. You never truly know. You want to always use your own best practice for this. And when you start trading, you got to start to learn to adapt and figure that out for yourself. It's really cool, actually. When I went to London this last weekend, I was able to meet with a couple of community members, and we were able to kind of collaborate and talk about different scenarios and a lot of mindset related situations. And oftentimes, we are our own worst enemy when we're trading, because we'll let emotion factor in, and we kind of we make poor decisions depending on the way that we feel. So again, make sure that you're feeling well and you're in the right state of mind before you trade. I think it would be a key indication. And then paper trade or demo trade on Bitget, for example, as much as you can, so you can actually kind of harness and focus on how to become a better trader and work within your own risk tolerance. Okay, because again, my risk tolerance is way different than yours, just because I've been trading for a very long time. Right? Again, everyone has their own strategy, not to say that one is better than the other, but develop the right strategy for you. Okay. All right, and those are all things I teach in my trading academy. Of course, check that out in your own time. I do look forward to working with you. I hope you have a great rest of your day. Thanks again so much for your time. We'll see you in the next one. Y'all take care.